How can managers make hiring better? In just a few minutes, I'll give you 3 questions that can make interviews better for everyone, you and the candidates. And why does that matter? Well, every time someone applies, they're saying that they're interested in your organization. And if you think about how much time and energy marketing and sales teams spend on getting customers, well, that same time and energy is important for those candidates and applicants because they're right there, a captive audience, saying that they're interested. And when someone applies, they may be one of hundreds or more that apply for a role. And all but one of those applicants are generally going to be disappointed by not getting the role. And so thinking about what you can do, because each of those individuals is going to send a message about your organization. And so what kind of message do you want them to send and what kind of experience do you want them to have, whether they're that ultimate candidate that gets the offer or not? And when you give that offer to that candidate, you want to make sure that if they accept it, that they know about your organization and role and really understand what it's like. So what can you do? 3 questions. One, often in interviews, people will say, walk me through your resume, your background, your career. And that's important because you're trying to get a sense of what they've done and what they can do and want to do moving forward. But to make it a bit more targeted and efficient, you can add language to say, and walk me through in each, the role, like the thing that you most are proud of or what you're most collaborated with others on. And so that can help to add some of that context. So it's not just this general walk down memory lane. And so just adding that, what are you proud of? What did you enjoy working on most in those roles? And if it is someone that's had a longer career and you're like, okay, they've worked at a lot of jobs, which a lot of people have, thinking about, okay, 3, what are 3 things that you've been most proud of that you've done? And that can really get a sense of, okay, where are they? What have they done? And what might they be interested in moving forward? The second is project, like show me what you can do. Sometimes with organizations, they'll give an assignment, like, okay, come up with a marketing plan for this, or come up with a presentation deck on this. I've seen ones that can spend hours and hours and hours. And I understand because you're trying to get a sense of how they work. But remembering that interviews are a 2-way street, and again, a lot of individuals that go through the interview process aren't going to get the roles. And so you don't want them at the end to be like, I spent so much time and it just feels so unfair. So thinking about how you can do that, because so many times when I've seen those projects, I've seen there's a lot of ways you could have asked that same information. Like if we were to give you a project, how would you approach this? And there's a lot of ways you can do that. If it's a writing thing, okay, show me a writing sample of what you've done. Having it be much shorter than these lengthy projects, because I see all the time comments on social media that talk about exactly that. It took so much time, I took time away from my family, I didn't even get feedback on it, it just felt like it was for free work. So just knowing that 2-step process in the 2-way street. And if you're ever looking for examples of questions, it can be a great prompt for ChatGPT to say, what are ways we can find out from a candidate, this role, without giving them an example project to work on? And they can give you ideas, and you can shape those as part of the process. And I think it's important if you do that and you ask the question instead to say to candidates, we want to get a sense of how you work, and also we don't want to give you a project that's going to take time. So just walk me through how you'd approach that. And that shows a lot of levels of respect, because a lot of that interview in the 2-way street is sending those signals to candidates that you're interested in them as well. And so the third is along those lines, and that's asking questions of your team to give information to candidates. Because a lot of times in interviews, you'll ask candidates, walk me through your background, ask questions about them, and then you turn the tables and will say, do you have any questions for me? And that's important to give them the opportunity. But realistically speaking, in job interviews, many candidates, they just want to get the job, and they're really afraid of asking questions about important information because they're afraid it'll make them look uncommitted or they'll be judged. Things like autonomy, working hours, everything like that can be really important, but candidates often aren't going to feel comfortable asking that, or they're going to be Googling, or ChatGPT, and how can I ask this without getting a ding in the interview process? And so by you taking a step and walking through their background, but before you turn the tables, saying, I wanted to share some of the things our team really likes about this role and working together as a team and what they're working on. And that means having that conversation with your team to ask, what are the things that you like about working here? What are things you wish you knew when you interviewed? It can be great to get that information. Even things like, what would you change about the role? And to the extent that they give feedback and you can take it and make any changes, that can be incredibly powerful information to share with candidates. So saying, here's some of the things our team said that they really enjoy working most, and also here's things they gave feedback, and this is how we made changes. Because I guarantee you, many candidates, if you have that conversation, they will never have a similar conversation in another interview throughout their career. because it's just not a normal step. But by providing that, you're showing empathy. Like, you are sending signals that you want them to have that information that they likely have but are afraid to ask. You're giving that, and you're also a manager that gets feedback from their team and is willing to change. And so adding that step can be incredibly powerful as well. Now, if these tips are helpful, in our Manager 101 course, we have a whole module on hiring, another on onboarding, and then the whole employee manager lifecycle. But overall, thinking especially about the two-way street aspect. I hear all the time from managers and HR professionals that go back in interviewing as a candidate, and they're like, oh, I forgot how hard this is. And it can be really hard. And so as a manager, what you can do to show that respect for candidates and make sure that you're getting the information that you need, but also giving the information that candidates need and deserve and being considerate about that to be efficient. That can be some of the best steps that you can take as a manager.